Welcome back. Let's talk vampires. Let's talk paranormal, the undead, shall we? We have an author with us this evening who is firm in the genre. It's Adrienne Monson. Her first book is entitled Dissension. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. How are you?
I'm great.
This must be an exciting part. This is some of the most exciting part of being an author, right? You go away and you sit and you write in quietude, and now you're out cranking it up.
Yeah.
Tell us about this book.
Well, it's book 1 of a vampire trilogy. So I'm working on book 3 right now. Book 2 is done. It's in with my editor. This is the first one that came out this year. And it's vampires and immortals, and they're battling against each other to try to find this prophecy child. Nobody knows what they're going to do with the prophecy child.
Have you always aspired to be a writer, or was it the genre or this particular story that kind of, I don't want to say brought you off the sidelines, but there's a big difference between, oh, I like to write a little bit versus getting it between 2 hard covers, right?
Right. Yeah, that's a big deal. But yeah, I've always wanted to do writing. I have read voraciously since I was a child, so it just works, you know. As far as vampires go, yeah, I'm happy to write vampires for the first bit, but I've got other things down the pipeline that will be paranormal, but not vampires. I
see. So we talked a little bit about this before we came on air, and I'm anthropologically fascinated, I'm culturally fascinated by this time that we find ourselves living in 2013, when it is all about the vampires.
Right.
Talk about your decision to write in this genre, knowing that it was already pretty popular. What were your thoughts in that regard?
You know, I actually was concerned because it's been done to death. I mean, you know, no pun intended there.
Yeah.
But
that was a good pun, though,
Thank
actually,
you.
now that I think about it.
Yeah, it's gotten so popular. In fact, my publisher didn't even want to publish the book when they heard it was vampires. But they, you know, pushed it with the editorial team, and then he finally read it and loved it, so he decided to publish the book. But it's sort of it's on the decline. And so I was wondering if it was going to be a bad thing to write vampires, but honestly, I mean, you know, the creative juices were flowing for this book, so I had to go with what my muse wanted me to write.
Right. And were you always fascinated by vampires?
Yes. Yes. In fact, I didn't tell you this before, but I thought my dad was a vampire when I was little.
Now, is this a revelation? Does he know this?
Yeah, oh, he knows. He knows. In fact, the first book is dedicated to him.
I see.
But my brother and I, we thought he was a vampire. He had this cool party trick where he had fangs hidden in his mouth, and you didn't know they were there. And then if you just glanced away for a second and glanced back, he had him in, and he would just, yeah, come and little attack you. And it was fun. It was a joke. He just kind of like tickle us, and I was never scared of vampires because my dad was a vampire, you know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So the process as far as working with your publisher, with your editor, was there one thing in particular that for them changed their minds, that it was okay to publish a vampire book, a book that you had written?
Yeah, what they told me, and what, you know, it's a lot like watching a movie. It's through Jollyfish Press, and they have a policy that the only books that they're willing to publish are ones that they could see being made into movies.
I see.
So as they were reading it, they were like, this could be an action movie. Like, this is really intriguing, it's enthralling, it's a fast read, you know, you just get into the characters, and it's just kind of like one of those fast-paced page turners that they decided to publish it.
Very cool. This isn't meant to be sort of a challenge in any way, but by the same token, because the genre is more crowded than ever, give me your thoughts, if you would, on why somebody should put Dissension at the top of their paranormal fiction reading list.
Well, I've redefined vampires. I have created my own version of how they came into existence in the first place, and so you get to read about that in the first book. And a lot of people have really loved that, because nobody really touches on how vampires come about. They just kind of exist, generally speaking. There's a couple out there that are like that. But That's one of the biggest things that people really love about this one, is you get to read how vampires were created in the first place, and the characters are great characters. Leisha is the main character, and she didn't want to be a vampire, and she sort of hates being a vampire, but she still is a vampire. So it's sort of that nice anti-hero character that everyone's really starting to love, you know, the anti-hero these days.
Very cool. Here's a curiosity that I have, and as we discussed before we came on air, and we'll share with folks, even though it sounds like with that surname of yours that you might be very, very close to the upper hierarchy of the LDS Church, you are not. You're not. But I'm curious about writing this kind of material being, and again, as an outside person, I get the impression that there's really not such thing as a casual member of the LDS Church. Either you're in and you're committed,
active,
or
yeah,
and you're active, or you're not.
Right,
and
right.
unlike us Catholics, who, you know, if we show up on Sunday and throw a couple shekels in the collection plate, it's, you know, it's kind of a thumbs up thing, and then we kind of go about sort of defining our lives without a lot of involvement or not oversight, but thought about what will the church think. Was there a period for you being a member of the church where these ideas are coming and maybe you're even writing and you're thinking, how is this going to go down? Was there that process?
Not so much. I was wondering how people, you know, in my church would react to the book, because it's not, you know, nice book.
Right.
There's dark stuff in there.
Yes.
However, I don't go into a lot of graphic detail. It's more of insinuation towards all the dark things that vampires do. But I didn't want your pretty, sparkly vampires for my book. It's just not for me. And so I just stuck true to the story, and that's basically my philosophy. You know, if you're being true to your story, to whatever you're writing, it'll come together, and I don't feel like I'm compromising any part of myself to be able to write vampires and stay, you know, an active LDS member.
Right.
Yeah.
Good for you. Well, and I think it bears mentioning that Old Testament, pretty graphic. I mean,
kind of weird. Yeah.
By anybody's, I would think, by anybody's definition.
Agreed.
Pretty hardcore book.
Yeah. Oh,
if
yeah.
you take it in that regard.
And my book's clean compared to that one.
Right.
So there you go.
Yeah, you're fine. You're good.
I'm set.
So published, here we have it. Hardcore, very nice. That's always a good thing, right?
Yeah.
You're not a pulp novelist. It's not paperback. You're in.
Oh,
you're
there's
in
paperback too. There's paperback, ebook, hardcover, whatever your fancy is.
Very cool. Talk about the promotion process now that you're published. You're here. Where else you going? Where can folks meet you in person?
I have another. I was in St. George this last Saturday doing a book signing at Barnes & Noble there, and I've got another one in Layton this coming Saturday on the 11th, and that's a big, with all the paranormal, or not paranormal, romance writers. They're all going to get together up there and do a big book signing, so it's with a big group of us authors to promote our books there, and that'll be fun.
Good for you.
Yeah.
So book 2 underway, you said?
Book 2 is with my editor. I'm just waiting to hear notes.
Oh, it's done?
Yes. So that, I'm working on book 3 right now, and hopefully we'll have that turned into my editor by January. We'll see if I get there.
Is it, as a writer, do you get to the point where those of us as readers, where we get to the point where it's like, I'm sorry, I won't be sleeping tonight because I got to see how it ends, and you read all the way through. Do you get that way as a writer?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Where you have to see how it ends?
I do, because I'm a discovery writer, so I just make it up as I'm writing. I have some things mapped out and outlined, but for the most part, it's like, as I'm writing, something will happen in my brain, and I'm like, oh, that's so perfect, and I'll stay up all night if I have to get that scene written out. It's fun. My husband doesn't love it as much, but it's really fun to do that. And so in the middle of the night, honestly, is the best time for my creative juices to start flowing anyways.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
And you have to follow that muse. I mean, if it happens, you can lose it if you don't get it down, right?
Exactly, yeah. I won't sleep if I don't get it down, honestly.
So might as well.
Exactly.
Very cool, very cool. Adrienne, tell folks where they can find out more about the book, where they can purchase the book, and find out more about Adrienne Monson.
Yeah, well, you can always go to my website, adriennemonson.com. Pretty easy. And then it's on Amazon or Barnes & Noble online, Goodreads. But yeah, you can purchase it from Barnes & Noble online or Amazon. Pretty much anywhere it's sold online is where you can find it. But those are the biggest ones. And we are going to have a big ebook sale on May 23rd for the ebooks for both Nook and Kindle. And that will be 99 cents. It will go from $6.99 to 99 cents for 2 days only. So
I see.
Yeah, that'll be big.
Very cool. Well, I'm excited.
Me too.
I'm so happy for you. I know from having known a few authors in my time that simply to get to this point where you are now is a huge deal.
Yeah,
to
it's
get
a big
published
step.
and to be moving along like this. I love the feel, the heft of the book, and my fondest wish for you is that very soon you will be taking meetings with development executives from various Hollywood studios, and we'll all see the great success with Dissension and with the trilogy as we have for another possible vampire series that may have made it to the silver
I appreciate
screen.
that, yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Nice
All
to
the
meet you,
best.
Terry. Thank you.
It's Adrienne Monson. The book is Dissension. Check it out. Barnes & Noble, Amazon, you can get it. It's a fun read. Check it out. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with the mayor right after this.